my name is Helene and today I'm going to do my October wrap-up. Since my last wrap-up, I have begun to write quite extensive reviews of every book that I read on Goodreads. So if you want to know more on my thoughts on the books I'm going to show you, then please go and check my Goodreads account. In October, I read 14 books, so let's just get started. The first book I read is also one of my favorites of the month, and that is The Goldfinch by Nth Game. I have already done a review of this book in another video, so I will put the link to that one down below. So if you want to know more of my thoughts on this book, then go check out that video because I don't want to repeat myself. But all in all, I gave this book 5 stars. It was so beautiful, so captivating, and I'm still thinking about it nowadays, even though it's been almost a month since I read it. Next book I read is an ebook, and that is The Imperfectionist by Tom Rachman. I believe the author is Danish, and that is why I wanted to pick up the book and see what his writing style was like. I ended up not really liking this book at all. The story was interesting. It is about a newspaper world in Italy, and then you follow persons who are committed to this newspaper in some way, and each chapter follows a new person, and within each chapter you wrap up their story. I like reading about newspapers. I don't know why, but that's what got me interested in this book. However, the thing that I didn't like about this book is, for instance, the writing style. It is way too rushed for my taste. I didn't feel like Tom Rachman allowed the reader to really dwell on the story and the characters. He just rushed through it, and then sometimes he also told us what the moral of the story was. I want to be able to figure that out myself as a reader. I don't want for the author to explain everything to me. And also I didn't like the fact that the characters were so rushly described. I didn't feel connected to any of them. I think it was the second to last story which has a character that I connected with, and that's it. So I ended up giving this book 2 stars. Next book I read is The Little Friend by Nth Game, and I also did a review of this book. I did a combined review of 2 of Nth Game's books, which is this one and The Goldfinch. So once again, link will be down below. However, this book left me kind of disappointed, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. If you want to know more about why, then go check out my review. Then I picked up a book that has been so hyped. I just almost couldn't believe it. I had to get it and I had to read it. And that is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I'm going to sound negative now. Beware. I ended up not liking it at all. But let's just start with the things that I liked about this book. I did like the fact that it takes place in Scotland, and we follow a woman who is being thrown back in time 200 years back, and then we follow her life and her story in Scotland back in the 1700s. I also like the fact that the dialogue in this book is Scottish, so that the persons actually speak the way that they speak in Scotland. I love that. But Claire, our main character, is this woman who is married in her modern life, but when she is being thrown back in time, she meets James, who she falls in love with. I can tell you that because that's described in the synopsis, I believe. However, their relationship to me turned into kind of a dominated relationship. That means that James was very rude to Claire. He became this sex demon who wanted to have sex all the time. I sometimes felt like he was raping her. And also, this is an extremely long book. It has so many pages, so much is going on, but at the same time the story didn't really captivate me. I didn't feel like I had to know what would happen to these 2 characters. I just read it because I had started it. I don't like to not finish my books, but in the end it was a fight to pick it back up whenever I had to read in it. I ended up giving it 2 stars. I believe I am not the only one, but one of the only people in the world who don't like this book. It seems like everyone loves it. They give it 5 stars. So if you have any interest in reading this book, then pick it up because a lot of people love it. I just didn't really like it. Next, I felt like picking up a smaller book because I didn't want to read another giant novel. So I picked up Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. This book is about a woman who has been committed for murder, And we then follow her on Iceland back in 1600, I believe, in the 30 days before she's being executed. We also follow her when she's being placed at a family, and this family doesn't really want to take her in. They have to, but they don't want to. They are afraid of this woman because she is a murderer, so why would they make her live with them and their children? I love this book. This was beautifully written, and the story was very much interesting. The story is authentic. This actually happened. So it also contains some pieces of letters that were written back in the days surrounding this story and this main character. And I loved it. I think I gave this book 4 stars just because it was so amazing. And I have nothing else to say. I think you should read it. This is a piece of work that you need to read. And it also makes you think about life and things in general. Next, I read a book that I was sent for review, and I was actually supposed to start this one on October the 4th, as everyone else in the world, but I didn't. So I started this about a week later, and that is Nth Game by James Frey. This is a story about a quest for gold. We have these 12 main characters who are being summoned to this chase. One day. They don't know when, but one day it happens. And then they have to fight for their lives in order to find the key behind this quest and to find the gold. This is an adventure book. I will say the writing style is not like the best. It's okay, but it isn't what made me like this book. It was more the characters and the story. It was funny to read. All in all, I gave this book 3 stars. I believe that this is the first book in a series of maybe 3 books. I don't know, but this is a fun read. If you need a light read one day and you want to participate in this quest for gold, then pick up this book. And also it has some pictures in it, like little riddles. So yeah, 3 stars. Next, I picked up a library book, and that is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is a children's book, and I know a lot of people who love this book. They read it back when they were children, and it has stayed with them since then. I have never read it myself, so I wanted to pick it out and see if I enjoyed it as much as everyone else. And I did. This is such a cute story about 5 girls. 5 girls, or maybe it's just 4 girls. I've forgotten actually. Anyway, we follow these girls and their mother as they live in that little house while their father is in war, the American Civil War. These little women, they are just adorable. They each have their own little characteristic, and I love them. They were so cute. Their family is so well balanced, I believe. If there was a quarrel, then they would talk about it and fix it, and that's it. And I think we could learn a lot from that these days. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I think that if I had read this one the first time when I was a little girl, I would have absolutely loved it and given it 5 stars without doubt. I just think that reading it today as an adult, I did feel a little bit like it was too moralizing, and sometimes Louisa May Alcott gives you a little hands up. You have to do this, you have to consider this, etc. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that. We could learn a lot from those morals, but that's why I ended up giving it 4 stars. Then I picked up a very small and quick read, and that is Blackwater by Joyce Carol Oates. I had heard so many great things about this author, but I had never read anything by her. So when I saw this book at work, I decided to borrow it and bring it back home and read it. I read it in like 2 hours. It is very small. It's about 150 pages. This is a book written in stream of consciousness. I love that writing style. So that really dragged me in, and I enjoyed it. It was a nice surprise to read this book, just because it throws you into a story, and then you are in this story for about 2 hours, and then you are finished. And you feel like everything has been twisted around in your brain. Something has happened, and then you still can't really, you feel kind of, I don't know, you have some feelings inside. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. That is because I think it was a little bit too short for my taste. I felt like it left me with some unanswered questions in a way. Not that it has any unanswered questions, I just felt like it missed something. This is a book about an incident that took place back in America, in Maine, I don't know when, 1960s perhaps. We have a senator and a young girl who are driving in their car, and the senator has been drinking. So they actually crash in their car, they drive into the water, black water, and then we hear about this girl and her thoughts during that accident. I'm not going to tell you how it all ends, but it is a very interesting book, I have to say. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I was contemplating a lot giving it 4 stars because really, I loved it. Nothing is wrong with it. But I think that in the end it was too short for my taste, and yeah, 3 stars. I also read Ugly Love by Colin Hoover in October. I read Maybe Someday by this author and I absolutely love that book. That book still touches me. So I wanted to pick up another book by her. The reason why I don't have it right here is because I lent it to my mother. This book disappointed me. It is about 2 main characters, a woman and a man who meet. They cannot really be together, but they are anyway, and then it turns into this ugly love. The thing that I didn't like about this book is that it turns into a sex book. The scenes turn into sex scenes, and that is not what I expected. So yeah, I gave it 2 stars in the end. It was okay, but at the same time it wasn't. I didn't really enjoy it, and yeah, I don't think I'm going to read that one again anytime soon. Next I picked up Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. This is a crime story about a family whose daughter suddenly dies, and then we follow the repercussions that this family experiences after the murder. And that is something that I really like about this book. It's not about the crime in itself, it's more about what happens afterwards with the family. This is a beautifully written book. It surprised the hell out of me. I didn't think that I was going to like it as much as I did. I love the writing style. This is my first book by Celeste Ng, and it is not going to be my last one. I love the writing style, and it's very interesting, the writing style, because you can follow one character and then suddenly next line is from another character's point of view. So it's very mixed up, but I loved that. It was great. It kept you surprised and you didn't know what was coming. I also loved the characters in themselves. I loved the family. I loved so much about this book. I highly recommend it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Then I picked up My Real Children by Jo Walton. This is a book about an old woman who suffers from dementia. She has started forgetting things. She doesn't really remember what actually happened in her life. Is it this life or is it this life? She has 2 variants of her life that she doesn't really remember which one is the correct one. I thought this was going to be a book about the woman when she suffers from dementia, and it isn't. This is a book about her life up to this dementia thing happening. So we follow her from she is a young girl and then up to she is this old woman with dementia. And it's not that I didn't like that take on the story. I was just expecting something else. So in the end I gave it 3 stars, both because it was a little bit disappointing, but also because the story in itself was okay, but it didn't keep me captivated throughout the story. Then I was in the mood for a classic, so I decided to pick up The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And this was a reread for me. As some of you know, I don't really reread books, but I have started to do that because I have found that I actually quite enjoy it. So this was a reread for me. I loved it. This is one of my favorite classics. The first time I read it was about 5 years ago at university, and back then I enjoyed it. But second time around I enjoyed it even more. It was such a pleasant read. Of course the story in itself isn't pleasant. It is quite dark and gothic and scary, but that's what I love about it. So if you haven't checked out this classic, please do yourself a favor and do so. I gave it 4 stars. And the second to last book I read this month is this book, which is Danish, and I believe the author is also Danish. If I had to translate it, I think it would be something like Damn Child, and then it is by Anne Catherine Ribnitsky. This surprised me. I absolutely loved it. It is about 4 grown-up people who we follow, and then we learn about their childhood gradually, and we realize that their childhood was not very happy. They had some problems that they deal with this day to day. So it is quite dark, and it has some scenes in it that really made me cringe. I almost couldn't stand reading them, but I did, and I loved it anyway. When I started reading this book, I didn't like the writing style. It was very like staccato, if you don't know what I mean. It was very abrupt, and it took me some time to get used to that. But I quickly got used to it. If you live in Denmark, pick it up. If you don't, then check out if you can get it in some way, because it is really good. I gave it 4 stars. And that leads me to the very last book I read in October, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which means I have actually read all of Donna Tartt's books in October. Yeah, so I have nothing else to look forward to by her, at least not for another 10 years. This is about Richard, who starts in college, or rather university, and then he meets these 4, or is it 5? 4? He meets 4 other students, and he becomes friends with them. However, these friends are not quite ordinary, and that's all I'm going to say. I loved it to pieces. It is, I just want to hug it. It is hard to describe because I gave this book 5 stars, as well as The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, which I showed you as my first book, but the 2 books are so different from each other, so it's not the same 5-star rating, if you understand what I mean. This is a piece of work that leaves you questioning. The mood in this book is, oh, so beautiful. I don't want to say too much, just read it. This book turns into a macabre kind of story. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. And that is all for this video. I think it is going to be quite long, so I'm going to quickly wrap it up and say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy reading, everyone. Bye bye.